The ballroom glowed with golden chandeliers, laughter echoing from every corner as music swept across the floor. Everyone seemed paired up, couples swirling in dances, friends raising glasses in joy, and families clicking endless photographs. But near the far end of the room, beneath the shadows of roses and fairy lights, sat Evelyn Hart. She was the kind of woman people whispered about, though never loud enough for her to hear. A female CEO, powerful, elegant, and breathtakingly beautiful, but she was also in a wheelchair. And tonight, at the grand wedding of her college best friend, she sat alone, the chair beside her painfully empty. Evelyn's tailored emerald dress shimmered under the lights, her hair perfectly styled, her lips painted in confidence. Yet, behind her sharp business smile, loneliness ached like a wound. Every time she caught sight of someone glancing at her chair, pity flickered in their eyes. She hated that look. She hated how they assumed she didn't belong on the dance floor, that love was something unreachable for someone like her. She adjusted her necklace and forced another smile as bridesmaids paraded by, whispering and laughing. A group of men nearby laughed a little too loud, clinking glasses, their eyes brushing past her like she wasn't even there. Or worse, like she was invisible because of the wheels she sat in. Evelyn had fought wars in boardrooms, commanded teams of men twice her age, and built an empire brick by brick. But here, in this glittering ballroom of love and belonging, she felt small. She thought to herself, why did I even come? That's when she saw him. Across the hall stood a man not in a tuxedo, not polished like the others. He was in a simple suit, slightly wrinkled at the shoulders, but his presence was undeniable. Tall, broad-shouldered, with eyes that carried both strength and gentleness. He wasn't laughing with the crowd. He was watching. Not her wheelchair, not her difference, but her. The man was James Carter, a single dad who had arrived as a distant cousin's guest. He wasn't supposed to be here long. In fact, he'd thought about skipping the wedding altogether. He hated the stairs too, but for a different reason. James had been raising his 6-year-old daughter alone since his wife passed away, and everywhere he went, people gave him that look, the poor man, struggling father look. But tonight, his daughter was at home with his mother, and for once, James wanted to feel alive again. His eyes kept drifting back to Evelyn. Not because she was the CEO he'd read about in the papers, not because of her beauty, though it was undeniable. But because she looked exactly how he felt, out of place in a world where everyone else seemed perfectly paired. Evelyn shifted uncomfortably when she noticed him staring. She braced herself for pity, for the awkward approach, for the forced smile followed by the tired line, "You're so inspiring." She hated that word. But when James walked over, it wasn't pity in his eyes. It was sincerity. "Mind if I sit here?" he asked, his voice warm, carrying the quiet confidence of someone who wasn't trying to impress, but simply belong. Evelyn blinked, surprised. No one had dared sit in that empty chair all night. "It's a free country," she replied coolly, though curiosity tugged at her lips. He smiled and pulled the chair closer. For a moment, silence lingered between them, broken only by laughter and music from the dance floor. Then he leaned closer, his voice low, genuine. "You look like you could use a partner tonight." Evelyn raised an eyebrow. "And you look like you're hiding from the party." They shared a laugh, light and unforced. For the first time that night, Evelyn's shoulders relaxed. Then James did something no one else had dared all evening. He extended his hand, eyes steady on hers. "Will you be my date? Just for tonight?" The words hit her harder than she expected. For years, people had looked at her chair first, then at her. For years, men had either tiptoed around her or treated her like a fragile glass doll. But this man, this stranger, wasn't asking her out of pity. He was asking her because he saw her. Evelyn hesitated, heart thundering, then smiled. "You're bold, Mr. Carter." "James Carter," he said with a grin. "Well, James Carter," she replied, sliding her hand into his, "you've got yourself a date." As he led her out toward the dance floor. Not to stand, not to push her, but simply to be with her, the room seemed to pause. For the first time in years, Evelyn didn't care about the stares. She didn't care about whispers. Because for the first time in years, she wasn't alone. And she had no idea that this night would change everything. The music swelled, violins weaving into the rhythm as James leaned closer, his voice low against the buzz of the ballroom. "Tell me, Evelyn, are you always this intimidating, or is it just part of the CEO package?" Her lips curled into a smirk. "Maybe it's both. You don't survive in my world by being soft." James chuckled. "Good. I like women who aren't afraid to own a room." Evelyn's chest tightened. It had been years since she'd felt a compliment that wasn't coated in sympathy. For once, she wasn't Evelyn the wheelchair-bound CEO. She was just Evelyn, the woman a man wanted to know. As the music slowed, couples drew closer, and James shifted his chair so their hands stayed locked. He didn't ask her to stand. He didn't try to fix her or pretend she was someone she wasn't. He simply matched her rhythm, letting her lead with grace from her chair, spinning their joined hands like they were on their own private stage. Eyes followed them, whispers floated in the air, but James didn't notice. He was lost in her laughter, in the spark that kept flashing in her eyes each time he teased her. And Evelyn, for the first time in a long time, forgot about her chair. She forgot about pity. She forgot about everything but the man who looked at her like she was enough. As the song ended, applause broke across the floor, though most of it wasn't for them. Still, James leaned close and whispered, "We just stole the show." Evelyn laughed, shaking her head. "You're unbelievable." They returned to their table, and the conversation flowed effortlessly. James told her about his daughter, Lily, whose favorite bedtime story involved pirates and astronauts. Evelyn shared stories from her climb to the top, about the deal she fought for, the betrayal she endured, and the loneliness of winning battles no one celebrated with her. For once, she didn't feel the need to wear her armor. Hours passed, but time felt suspended. Somewhere between the champagne and the music, Evelyn realized something dangerous. She was smiling, truly smiling, in a way she hadn't in years. And James, he looked at her like he'd known her forever. As the night drew to a close, James stood and walked her toward the balcony. The cool air wrapped around them, the city lights stretching like diamonds below. He leaned against the railing, hands in his pockets, and said quietly, "I wasn't supposed to be here tonight." Evelyn tilted her head. "And yet, here you are." "Yeah," he replied, his eyes steady on hers. "And I'm glad I came. Because if I hadn't, I never would have met the woman who reminded me what it feels like to belong again." Her throat tightened, words caught between disbelief and hope. She opened her mouth to reply, but he gently placed his hand over hers. "I don't care about the chair, Evelyn. I don't care about the titles or the whispers. I care about the woman who sat alone tonight, and the way she laughed when I asked her to be my date." Tears burned the back of her eyes. For years, Evelyn had told herself she didn't need anyone. She had her empire, her success, her fortress of independence. But tonight, a single dad with nothing to prove had broken through her walls with nothing but sincerity. "James," she whispered, her voice trembling. He smiled softly. "Let's not call it fate. Let's just call it the start of something we both needed." For a long moment, silence stretched between them, the world narrowing to the sound of their breaths and the glow of the city lights. Then Evelyn did something she hadn't done in years. She leaned forward and let her heart speak louder than her fears. The kiss was soft, tender, but it carried the weight of years of loneliness, of battles fought alone, of wounds finally healing. And when they pulled back, Evelyn laughed through her tears. "You really are unbelievable, James Carter." "And you," he whispered back, "are unforgettable." As the music inside faded into the night, Evelyn knew her life had shifted. She hadn't expected love. She hadn't expected hope. But tonight, at a wedding where she thought she'd sit forgotten, a single dad had given her something more precious than any empire. He'd given her back the courage to feel alive again. And for everyone watching this story unfold, remember this: life has a way of surprising us when we least expect it. Sometimes, love finds us not in grand gestures, but in the quiet courage of two people daring to see each other for who they really are. So, if this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Because more powerful stories like this are waiting for you, and who knows? The next one might just remind you that love can find you anywhere, even when you least expect it.